Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Today I have a hero with me, a real Indian hero, Air Vice Marshal Suryakant Chafekar, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Shaurya Chakra. For those of you who do not know, the Shaurya Chakra is the third highest peacetime gallantry award in India. He retired as the Senior Air and Administration Officer of the Maintenance Command. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force in the Transport Wing, and during his service, he has flown various different kinds of aircraft for up to 7,000 hours. An alumnus of the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, he's also a qualified flying instructor with having half of his hours as an instructor itself, that is 3,500 hours. He's an expert in air maintenance and specializes in the Himalayan region and its operations. He has executed landings of an N-32 aircraft in Daulat, Oldi, which is the highest landing ground in the world at 16,700 feet. Apart from that, he's also conducted landings at some very important other landing strips that we've got facing the LAC called Neoma and Fukche. He has vast experience in terms of disaster management. And the other day, actually, the Air Vice Marshal was telling me that he was also responsible at an operational bid for the relief that was sent to Nepal after the earthquakes. Thank you, sir, for joining me today to tell your story about your time in the Indian Air Force.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you for calling me. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
I'll ask you a question as to how did the thought of the Indian Air Force begin with you, sir? Was it something that you wanted to do as a child, or was it something that you decided to do as a young adult, or how did it go by for you, sir?
Yeah, normally the answer to this will be yes, I was damn interested and I was very attracted to aviation. I used to see aircrafts in the air always. For me, the story doesn't start like that. It's quite different. To tell you the truth, I was a kind of an outdoor boy from a small town, Nagpur. Now it is not anymore small because a lot of political bigwigs are from this city now. So, born and brought up here, did my graduation in science from here only. And coming to the aviation part, you will be surprised to know, in Army NCC, in junior division as well as senior division. So the interest was in defense forces, yes, you can say. However, it was all army all the while. When I decided that yes, I want to join the defense forces now, so I had to go through CDSE, Combined Defense Service Examination, the written one, and thereafter the SSB. So when the time came to fill up the form, I filled up naval aviation as the first choice, let me tell you. The second choice was Air Force, and the third was Army. Because till then I had made up my mind that yes, I want to fly. However, these were my choices. And as I cleared the exam, cleared the SSB in the first go, and then my merit was there in naval aviation, as well as in Air Force, as well as in Army. Somehow or the other, what went to my mind, I don't know, not very sure. Partly my mother, she was damn attracted towards Air Force. She used to tell me always, maybe that, but my choice was naval aviation. Still, I selected Indian Air Force, and that is how you can say my journey started. So it has been kind of a, we keep talking about destiny. I am very, the term which I am going to use, I have picked up now. But now when I look back to my life, I find that has been coming to my life time and again. And that is, everybody believes in destiny. Yes, you do what you want to do, but finally, what is destined comes. Not that we stop working. But what I learned through my own experience is that destiny is not matter of chance. Destiny is matter of choice. So destiny, yes, definitely, it has got a role in your life, but the choices you make also do matter. That is what I would like to say right in the beginning.
As a young cadet, sir, any wish to fly any particular aircraft at that time? Yaar, ye chalana.
No, not at all. Not at all. You'll be surprised to know I have never looked up in the air with awe, looking at an aircraft. There was no major attraction as such. Okay, but somehow after graduation, I got that feeling, yes, flying, I'm meant for flying. You know, for appearing for Indian Air Force flying, you have to go through an exam known as PABT. Those days it was pilot aptitude and battery test, they used to call it. So it has got what today's boys and girls do very well, the kind of a video game. Okay, you move that joystick left and right, the dot moves left and right, you move it forward, back, that moves up and down. However, this was practical, but there was some theory thing also, in which they showed you aircraft coming towards you, going away from you, and some instruments and all. And I had never seen a backside of an aircraft. So when I came to know that there is something like this just 3 to 4 days before I had to report for interview. Now I was in a fix. I didn't knew nothing. So there was a boy, a friend of mine, who was in NCC Air Wing. So he came, drew a lot of instruments, explained me what is altimeter, what is. I still remember that day very vividly. Altimeter. That was the first time I was introduced to the instruments in the aircraft. Anyway, entire train from here to Mysore, I did my SSB in Mysore. I kept solving those numericals which he had given. That altimeter is showing so and so, the artificial horizon is showing so and so. So left, aircraft is going left or right, climbing or descending. All that I did. And the best part of the whole this gimmick is, if you fail once in PABT, in defense forces you cannot fly. It's over for you. I didn't know that also. So maybe that helped me. So I was not tense first. So I said it will be one of the. So that is how I was introduced to flying. Actually, I was nowhere closer to flying. That's why I say I made my choices. And yes, they reached where I had to.
The PABT seems to be a once in a lifetime opportunity. You miss it, you miss it. Simple as that.
Yes.
Very so you would have flown a variety of aircraft during your career in the Indian Air Force. Which one was your favorite? And any particular mission that you would remember, apart from, of course, the landing ground operations that we will discuss later, but any particular memorable incident that you'd like to relate to us?
Yes, here also I am quite different from others. You know, these days boys and girls get attracted with aircraft which have got a lot of instrumentation. The panel, the cockpit full of panels, switches, and automated thing. Our time maybe would have been different, or maybe we got that, so we enjoyed it the most. I flew quite a few aircraft, as you have said. So in training, we flew what is known as HT2, piston engine aircraft, tail wheel aircraft, a very famous aircraft, very nasty one. Okay, it's like you want to learn horse riding, and they put you on a most dicey horse. It's like that. That aircraft used to swing. You know, on landing, when you touch down, it had its own mind. It may swing twice and again get into the same direction, or it may swing 180. And where your direction you have landed, you are facing opposite, and quite embarrassing. Let me tell you that. So that was our first aircraft, HT2. Moving from there, we flew Kiran, a jet trainer. From there, I selected transport, so I moved on to Avro, a very, very nice machine, very obedient, beautiful machine. In that training, I was first in flying, maybe because I liked that aircraft well, and my instructor was pretty strict and quite a nice person as far as teaching went. Then I was posted to Far East. You know, we had to search for that place on map. My entire family tried doing it, but we couldn't see that place. Where its name is Chabua. You know, this place is somewhere in between Tinsukia and Dibrugarh, Far East. You can't go. It's quite. And I flew an aircraft, Canadian aircraft, a single engine transport aircraft, the only one in Indian Air Force. Name as Otter. DHC-3 was the specification. Otter. Basic aircraft with basic aerofoil, minimum instrumentation, and you know, there is a term, seat of pants flying. We did that. Seat of pants means exactly if you start feeling that itching feeling when you are coming closer to the ground, then your seat of pants tells you now is the time to put her down. So it was literally that flying. And it was in East, beautiful countryside, yes. Excellent people, challenging flying in the hills, very short runways we used to land, 3,000 feet and less. And it was a beautiful aircraft. But again, it was a tailwheel aircraft. So it did the same tricks what our first aircraft did. But this was slightly better, you can say. It used to behave much better. And this was the only aircraft where we flew single pilot in a transport aircraft. That was the only one and the last one. So it was a excellent and one of the best 10 years of mine. That is the place I got married also. We had three different squadrons there.
Hmm.
You know, a fighter, MiG-21s, a helicopter, and a transport. And the camaraderie between us was phenomenal. And my boss was Group Captain Karyappa, who retired as Air Marshal Karyappa. Now he settled in Kurg. From there, I moved on to a very, very chaotic place, Agra, on a on a very fast machine as compared to my previous one. That is AN-32. It's a Russian machine. Okay, very versatile again, excellent. Inducted somewhere in I think 83s, 84s, still flying very well. It's the backbone of Indian Air Force transport fleet. And all my things which I've done, ALGs you mentioned, it's all on that aircraft. It's a beast. Short takeoffs, short landings, can land in very high temperatures, can land in very low temperatures. It's a wonderful machine, you can say. Made specially and specifically for India. Their original N was N26. We got it converted to N32 by shifting the engine upwards so that it can do short takeoffs. It can land at short fields. So it was kind of a tailor-made for India. That is why it was so successful. And a lot of power, and it used to run out of hands. For me, it was quite a change because from a very slow speed aircraft in Indian Air Force, I came on to a very fast aircraft in Indian Air Force. At that time, Sri Lankan Ops was on. So I baptism by fire. So went to Sri Lankan almost all airfields. Thereafter, from there only we did Operation Cactus in N-32 because it was launched from Agra. Then moved on, went to instructor's course. We call it FIS. From FIS again came back to N-32 units now as an instructor. So that role was different. From there to staff college and then landed up in Chandigarh, the most happening place for transport fleet in Indian Air Force. And here I brought it to Chandigarh so that your ALG story starts from there actually. That is Himalayan story starts from there. So I brought you to there. ALG story started from my first unit only in Otters. But Himalayan adventure, you can call it, starts when I landed up in Chandigarh after my staff college as a flight commander. The year is 2000.
Sir, these, of course, as you mentioned, we're going to talk about these landing grounds. It had to be a lot of preparations and a lot of anxiety to get into something like this. And, fixing up a landing ground, the ground staff who do the work over there obviously did a brilliant job in all the landing grounds across the country, which are there in the front lines. And of course, the people that are flying in and out today, it's a hair-raising experience when you even see it. So I'd like to ask you, these operations that were conducted, as you mentioned, they started off in 2000 and the Daulat Beg Oldi, if I'm not mistaken, is the 31st of May 2008. We see the results of those efforts today when the Chinese came and stood on our necks. Or let me rephrase that: when the Chinese came and tried to stand on our necks in Ladakh, and we were able to actually use those areas to our advantage. So there had to be some forethought that went into planning such trips, especially in Ladakh. I'd like you to explain to us, one, how was this whole preposition brought forth to yourself? How was it done within the squadron? What were the preparations? And of course, we will talk about the actual missions. But how did the whole story span out, sir?
To take you straight to DBO will be not correct. So I will take you step by step.
Yes.
In that, I have told you already, I landed up as flight commander in 2000 at Air Force Station Chandigarh. Okay. It is a aerial bridge to northern sector, you can say. Everything which reaches Leh, Ladakh region is going from there. So in 2000, when I went there, actually DBO didn't start in 2000, it started in 2008 only. But 2000 I mentioned for a reason, because again, destiny and choices starts from here. Okay, so the second or third incident now comes now. In 1999, you are aware Kargil war. That time we couldn't use the Kargil airfield because it's very close to
Yeah.
the line of control with Pakistan. Very, very close. So when I took over as flight commander, April 2001, I was told restart that airfield. So a lot of work was to be done. A lot of work was done. Resurfacing. There was a kind of a nala kind of a thing. Over that, you had to make a bridge, strengthen it, and all that. And this airfield is around 10,000 feet plus, and it's kind of a bowl. In Ladakh region, everything is surrounded by mountains, and they are mountains. Let's say you from Mysore, me from Nagpur, we only can imagine that, right? Because we have seen hillocks. Okay, they are 20,000, 22,000, 25,000. That's a marathon. Anyway, so Kargil is like that, and it snows quite a bit. Army did a good job. The runway thing was done, everything was done, and in April 2001, I went and landed there as a trial landing. It was successful on a N32. However, few more works were to be done, so time passed, and almost in Feb 2002, it was decided that we will inaugurate that airfield now. So my bossman was with me on board, and we went towards Kargil. Unfortunately, things went wrong, and my aircraft was fired upon by Pakistani missile. My right engine was on fire. We controlled that fire, hugging the hills, mountains. Somehow flew for 31 minutes and landed the aircraft at Leh. Now, this is also another first. Nobody earlier had done any single engine landing in that area for flying for 31 minutes. Choices were made by me again, not to land at Kargil on single engine, continue land at Leh, and it worked out well. And in any other organization, something goes wrong, then you are in a inquiry session. So court of inquiry followed, things followed. But here, what I had always learned as a middle class family member, be honest, speak the truth. My mother used to always tell me, and as a youngster, we laugh it off, such things. But here was the time I understood, yes, speaking truth is very important. I spoke the truth, and things went off well. I got a break for some time. Anyway, that is not our subject today, so we will leave it at that. Why I said choices I made. I made a choice to be honest, truthful, say yes, if mistake is done, move forward. And Air Force was very kind and well-hearted. Always has been good for me. Continued and moved to Agra as a group captain now. This when happened was I was a wing commander. And that time I had seen the area now. So I used to do over DBO, drop the load by parachutes, open the rear door, drop it. So I had seen that area. I was very conversant, but because this happened, I took over again as flight commander, and within 4-5 months, I moved out. Now I was promoted to the rank of group captain and took over as chief operations officer at the largest airbase, that is Agra. It was a wonderful tenure. I had a very satisfying tenure because I could induction of your air-to-air refueler (FRA) was done during that time. Then we had a first, squadron coming there for FRA. A lot of work was there. Moreover, I started a course known as Transport Combat Leader course. Earlier, there were only Fighter Combat Leader and Helicopter Combat Leader. So I take say that I was involved quite a bit because I had to restart something new. Because earlier it was thought, why transport requires combat? Why I'm telling you the story is this thing of transport fleet importance in combat was always back of my mind because I had selected this branch as mine. Okay, that is had gone to the level of making this ALGs reactivated. That is why I'm telling you. So this TCL course, which was held first, I gave them the project. End of the course, there is project. So I gave them project of nuances of landing at DBO. 43 years, nothing had happened there. I had somehow got fascinated with that activity, you can say, or I said there is a lot of strategic importance of this place. As a flight commander, I used to go there, so I knew. So here I was, because of Kargil, I was on back foot a little bit, but anyway, I got this study done. And again, make your choices comes once again. As Kuagra, I was posted to in East once again.
Hmm.
I had already done 2 tenures, almost 7 years I had stayed there in Otters and AN-32s. Now I was posted as commanding officer again. So somehow I felt now this is not very well done. So I just represented my case. HR, well, everywhere HR is safe. So with us also it is safe. So normally people don't do such things. Okay, but I have a habit of that. If I feel I have that feeling, what I'm representing is correct, I go ahead. I don't hold back. Choices once again. So I made my choice. I put in an application, said no. I have done enough in East. Post me somewhere else. Let me get operational some other area. And to my surprise, for a very very rare thing that my HR, we call it personal staff, they said you are absolutely correct. You should not have been posted there. So there were no thrill bomb. I was very happy. Came back to Agra, but my bossman, we call it AOC, Air Officer Commanding. He was a very nice person, gentleman. He told me, why you keep doing this? Now you may not get your commanding officer tenure. I told him it's okay. I've enjoyed chief operational officer's tenure, so it's okay. 1st Jan 2008, the signal said I'm posted to Chandigarh. Choices. You have to make choices, and for that you have to have guts. You have to be straightforward. You have to be ready to. Maybe you won't get, and the whole career may get spoiled. But you have to be your own. So it was a natural kind of a thing. Nothing very great. That is, but I am saying, yes, again a choice. And this choice nobody liked, and everybody predicted it's going to put me in trouble. And no, it didn't. So 1st Jan 2008, I was posted there. And 1st Jan 2008, Western Air Command had a new AOC named Air Marshal Barbara. Okay, so again, if things have to work out and you make right choices, this is what happens. So I took over a squadron, very junior officer, group captain. He was a Air Marshal. He took over the Western Air Command and he visited my station in Feb of that year, 2008 only. Within 1 month, I took over. He visited. It's a very important place for Western Air Command for transport. So in that we routinely give presentations and things like that. I had given, but I had something other in my mind. I had decided that Barbara sir is a real go-getter, and if I have to do DBO, is the person, is the one who is going to clear me. Otherwise, Aadi, 43 years, nobody had tried. Nothing was moving. Why not? As we move ahead with the story, it's quite interesting. We'll go ahead. But as of now, I'll tell you, I knew that this officer, my senior most boss, whom I couldn't meet directly or talk directly, the hierarchy of forces. I could talk to my immediate boss. My immediate boss has 2 more bosses, and then came Air Marshal Barbara. But anyway, I got a chance. He came to my squadron, so I had a chance. So after finishing that routine, I asked him, sir, I have one request. So my immediate boss was worried. I'm known to be quite, once I decide, I get going. So he was also surprised. What is he new? So I told him, sir, there is something DBO landing, and I will give a small presentation to you why it should be done and things like that. So I went ahead, told him the strategic importance, told him why it has not been done. I am surprised. Told him why it is required. Told him, yes, it is difficult, but for military requirements, taking risk is part of life. After all, we were military person. And to my I won't say surprise, to my happiness, and he said, yes, go ahead. And this I had done in front of all my entire squadron sitting in the briefing hall, all my youngsters sitting. And previous night, I had told my few people, selected people, that I have this in mind and I'm going to put across tomorrow. If he clears, we have to keep going. It's quite a difficult job, but we will do it. Now, why I call him a good leader is he knew about my Kargil fiasco. He knew that nobody is wanting to do this DBO because of a lot of things. As we move ahead, I will tell you why difficult. Okay. The word used was impossible, not difficult. Okay. But he was a man. And this is how, if things have to happen, you make right choices, right people land up there and things work out well. That is what my feeling is. So he said, yes, go ahead. This was Feb. He said, April. By April, you are going to come to Western Air Command, that is Delhi, Subrata Park, and brief me on this. I will call all other people also. So my squadron was gaga over it. Youngsters are very happy, if you get them channelized and give a very kind of a challenging job. They were on with graphs, this, that, everything was ready. In April, I went there, and to make the story short, because my stories are real long, and that DBO is very long because of the reasons. It has not been done for 43 years. So now in this meeting, interestingly, there were people from Pune, civilians, who deal only with soil. They are known as RRMT. There is an institution, runway rehabilitation and maintenance. They do soil testing, decide whether a runway can be made there on that soil. Okay, density of soil they calculate. They are expert in all this. So their representative was there. Technical boss was there, who decides whether this aircraft can go there or not. My flying people were there. My boss, that is CNC, was there. My immediate boss, that is AOC, was there. To cut the story short, I was the junior most there, and I am going to propose a landing. Okay, but then I do these things also pretty well. So the soil expert said no, and he gave a feeling that if the aircraft lands, it may go in, kind of, because they said soil strength is less, which was fact. Nothing to be denied. Number two came the technical people. They said this aircraft is not made to land beyond 13,000 feet. An elevation of DBO is 16,700 feet. So they said you are flying outside the performance of the aircraft. The OEM, that is original equipment manufacturer, says you can't do it and you want to do it. So I told them, I didn't tell them, I just listened to everything. Then my flying members came. Aadi, there were 3 board of officers, we call it, done by 3 air vice marshal rank people, presiding officer, who had said that AN32 should not go there because of all these reasons which I told. They had clearly said. So that was the background on which I was going to speak. So Air Marshal Barbara, as usual, said, yes, we have heard 3 people saying no. I have one person who says yes, let's listen to him. So yours truly went up on the rostrum, and I explained. In the beginning, I said I am not a soil expert. I know that I am going to operate beyond the performance parameters of the aircraft. However, I have knitted some precautionary things within it, so it will be a safe thing. And then I said the aviation experts are saying no, board of officer and all. I don't deny that they may be right, but as a military ops and considering the strategic importance, we should do. Then I showed graphs and which side the graph goes and all that technical details were done. Came and sat down. Now that everybody was looking at Air Marshal, he was sitting on the head. So he just asked me one question. I still remember the day very vividly. He said, Chafekar, hoga ki nahi? So I said, yes, hoga. And there he was, a leader true, ready to take risk for the country's sake. He got up and said, yes, we are going ahead with DBO landing. I was told to prepare the airfield with the help of army, because it was impossible to prepare the airfield without army. Rather, they only did it. Hats off to the army Jawans at 16,700. What they have done, we will, as we move ahead, we will come. So that's it. I just shot like a rocket from there to Chandigarh, and the preparation started. The first preparation was preparing the ALG, we call it, Advanced Landing Ground. Now, why we call it ALG is because it is not bitumen surface. It is not concrete surface as you have in Mysore runway or Nagpur runway or Delhi runway. It is unpaved, kacha. It is normal ground. Okay, and the problem was in 67 and then after again in 96 or once or twice, earthquake hit that place. So there was a huge crevasse right in the center of the runway. That runway was there earlier, but you can't call it a runway when I have a video for that for training purpose we had made. So when you see that, you will realize that it is not a runway; it is kacha strip. So these army jawans compacted it, put some oil, used oil, some water there, because water you don't get easily there. Everything is frozen. It is 16,700 feet. I went there 2-3 times to check whether the ground appears compacted well or not. Things like that. So that making that ALG was important, and hats off to the army. And General Bharadwaj, I still remember, wonderful person. He if General Bharadwaj and Air Marshal Barbarov were not there, decision making would have been very difficult. Proposal I had given, planning I was doing, execution was to be done by me. However, somebody from top had to support me, yes, go ahead. So these were the two gentlemen, officers, very senior officers that time, who really did a lot for us. And the ALG was ready. Now, why DBO is difficult? We will have to see for in 3-4 kind of headings. Number one, geopolitical situation there, kind of then geographical and terrain, geographically and terrain wise, what were the difficulty? And the third is aircraft problems. ALG problem I have already covered. So the first one was China, from China, line of actual control. Now China is LAC, okay, and Pakistan is LOC. Actual control means it's now almost everybody knows after 2020 what is difference between LAC and LOC. So this place is just 7 kilometers from LAC. That means from the hilltop they are watching us. From south, west, east and southeast. 6, 6, 7, 7, 10, 10 kilometers, and Karakoram Pass is, as the crow flies, just 13 kilometers. Very, very strategically important, because if China has to join Aksai Chin with Saksham Valley, which has been handed over to them by Pakistan in POK, if they want the road, it will go through DBO. DBO, east of Siachen, and they can connect. Right now, they go all around. Very strategically important. 5 cultures meet there: Chinese, Indian, Persian, Arabian, Central Asian. So it's a very important place for this world, you can say. It's known as rooftop of the world. That is how things are working there. So very important. And we have been, as Indians, very Pakistan centric. You will agree with me. Hardly anything we did that side. And this I am talking about 2008. Okay. So not very politically, there was no much of support, you can say. The governmental support was not there. However, we didn't require government permission. Let me tell you a fact. Army was making the ALG flyable. Indian Air Force was clearing me to land. That's it. It's a tactical activity. So there has been a lot of halla and newspapers that government didn't give permission at all. According to me, government, there was no requirement of asking permission. Anyway, besides, with these two leaders, things worked out very, very well, and we continued. So that was one thing. And China, it is our land, that is our ALG. However, China was kind of bullying us by saying, don't dare not to do this, that, political pressures, all that. Anyway, now geographically, that place is very, very difficult. It's kind of a bowl. When I show you a picture or so, somewhere, you will be able to see surrounded by mountains of 22,000, 25,000, 23,000, like that, and land, flat ground, plateau kind of a thing in Himalayas are very small, hardly any. So you can say bottom of that bowl is the ALG, and all the sides are what you call is mountain ranges. So it's like a kind of a, you enter, then you can't get out. And if you have engine failure or something, then it's further difficult. You have to find some routes and things like that. So difficult proposition basically. Very high winds, unpredictable weather, temperature minus 50 degrees, elevation 16,700, lack of oxygen. So the difficulty level was pretty high. Okay. That is why, and there is no aircraft in the world which is made, which can land at 16,700, switch off its engines and restart engine. No engine, aircraft engine can start beyond 13,500. 40% oxygen is less at that place. That is the issue. Terrain-wise difficult, geographically difficult, plus I had one incident in Kargil. Pakistan lug out one missile. Here, though, we are just 6 kilometers away. So I am again very close to LAC, like I was last time very close to LOC. So geographically and terrain-wise difficult. Last but not the least is aircraft. There were so many limitations of aircraft which we had to cross, the performance limitation, okay? Because aircraft are not meant to be landing at 16,700. Nobody makes such aircraft. Why they should make? There are no such airfields anywhere other than China and us.
Yeah.
So when we had asked OEM, they said, no, don't attempt like this. So what all was difficult? Number one, once you have committed to land, you have to land. Because you can't overshoot, because then you can't climb over because of the mountains around. Secondly, you can't switch off the engine. If you switch off the engine, then it won't restart. So you have to keep the engines on. Then when you land, the landing speed is going to be very high. True air speed we call it.
Yeah.
Because of rarefied atmosphere, the speed is very high. So if I land at Chandigarh, suppose at 220 kilometers, here I am going to land at 280 kilometers. So the tire limiting speed crosses. Last not least, it is a kacha airfield, so braking action. Such was the, and if engine failure or something takes place, then we had it, because you can't start the engine. So it was a risky thing, but militarily it was very important and strategically important. So we may have said, we'll go ahead. Now I practice all this at Chandigarh, because 1 or 2 times I tried practicing over DBO, and Chinese intelligence agency was gaga over it by that, why this man is selecting undercarriage. When you drop from air, you don't have to select undercarriage down. Such was their observation. You can imagine how much interest they were showing. So they had some inkling that there is something being planned, but it was kept pretty secret. Only 3-4 guys knew about it. So everything was put in place, and 31st of May was the day which was decided to be there. So my boss was there, leading from front, not troubling us by being in cockpit for sure. He traveled as a passenger, okay, and he was sitting on a normal seat, but he wanted to be there because he wanted to be morally giving us a support. Got up very early in the morning, went there, took only the minimum fuel, because landing at those temperatures, and we decided not to come back straight, but land at twice, so that lesser fuel can be taken. Because we were doing first time, we didn't know how much load can be taken, how much load can be brought out. All you are going something out of performance graph. It is difficult to predict what is going. at around 6:05, 6:10, that historic landing was made. Deceleration was slightly bumpy, you can say, because it's a kacha field. The aircraft was kind of jumping, a lot of dust was being thrown, small stones were propped, very small ones. They had compacted pretty well, but still, when after landing force, and then we kept the engines on. General Saab was already there, General Bharadwaj. He had come by helicopter. So he and Air Marshal spoke to the people who had done a very, very difficult job of making this airfield ready. So he congratulated them, handed over some sweets, and engines were running still. So then we all got in and we took off. Now takeoff was difficult because there is a hillock right in front after takeoff. So you have to immediately turn right. And the power you get with full throttle also is lesser because of that altitude. Elevation is 16,700 feet, 40% less oxygen. And the, airspeed indicator, ASI we call it, which indicates the speed, gives a sluggish response. It doesn't nicely, smoothly, because of lack of air coming to it. So it goes in jerks. And speed is very important to get the aircraft in air. So we were slightly apprehensive anyway. Once we got the speed, we picked up, turned right, went and landed at Thois. And that is how the history was created, and a new chapter of Indian Air Force and for entire defense forces started. As we were landed in Thois, we got the information that China has asked for flag meet. Now you can imagine we are landing in our place, our area, just closer to this, but questioning is there. Anyway, that was tackled. They called for flag meetings once, twice, thrice, all the three times they cancelled it. Because they also would have wondered what to ask them. They are landing in their own place. However, that was the apprehension in their mind, you can imagine. That is how we knew that yes, what we were anticipating, that there is going to be strategic importance of this place, we were right. There was, and there is, which proved in 2020 as you mentioned earlier.
Correct.
Thereafter, again, I almost did 50 to 60 sorties there. Okay. The Johnny there who was positioned, ITBP's position and a little bit of army, if they had their rotation is done fast, 3 months, 4 months, because 16,700 you can't stay for long. To come to Thois, they had to walk for 15 days, and average height they used to walk over was 13,000. You can imagine what state of affairs. When my aircraft went there, you should have seen their glee on their face. Oh, they were so happy. Because in 20 minutes, I was going to get them to Thois. And the first time I went, after this trial was over, then Bossman, as usual, I knew he will say, no, it is not only trial, now start operations. I was ready for it. So we started operations, and the first time I landed, you can't switch off engines, I told you. So a lot of dust is risen, engine sound, and the people are roaming around. The aircraft is quite a activity in itself. So I declared I will take around 15 to 20 passengers back twice. So in second, like a zippy, everybody was inside. So keen to get into that thing. Because after so many years, they were going to experience something like this. So when I landed at Thois, I just went back. They were thanking me to get. I observed that none of them had any luggage with them. So I asked them, "You are on leave. Where is the luggage?" One chap says, "साहब जी, आपने बोला चलो, हम तो तैयार नहीं थे, but 20 मिनट में पहुंचना था, तो हम बैठ गए." So I asked them, "Then how you are going to enjoy your leave?" They said like this, and घर वाले हैं तो. Such was the enthusiasm. You can imagine, you and me sitting here can't understand them. Okay. So this landing was important for casualty evacuation if something went wrong for them. Then the rotation of the troops, if at all it was required, and giving them daily rations. We started landing. So they got things which they would not have imagined. Their ammunition, their clothing, their logistics, basically logistic support was fully there. And whenever my aircraft used to drop, if they had some emergency, I used to think, what will my boys do if they have emergency? You can't get out of that. You have to go via escape route. So now they had a choice of putting their aircraft down at. So the whole crew, people, passengers are safe. So such were the 4, 5 things, but the strategic importance was topping up on the cake. We realized definitely. Then of course we landed at Chandigarh. My boys were very enthusiastic. They had all done the shooting for training purpose, and so they made CDs within 3 hours. And when the press conference was held in Chandigarh, that was handed over to the reporters. Why I'm telling you this? This is no secret. I'm not divulging any secret. This is all available in open. Okay. At 2008, the Chandigarh newspapers had that CD. And it was thereafter we continued almost 50, 60 sorties. And in 2013, when I was the boss there in Air Headquarters, Hercules also landed there.
Yeah.
And Hercules is the one who did all the ferrying of troops in 2020. So that was the story of DBO. And for me, as a person, individual, it was a very big thing because I had just seen something going wrong in Kargil, and here again worst conditions. That was 10,000 feet elevation. This was 16,700, world's highest airfield, closest to Chinese, and everything kind of impossible. So I almost use impossible as my stepping stone and did it, you can say. So partly it was like that. So that is how the DBO story went. And the youngsters, my squadron boys, had done a wonderful job in calculating the things, making the graphs, overall preparation of aircraft. My technical staff was at it, minimum weight, best of the aircraft. Because something goes wrong there, you will have to leave the aircraft. That is the danger. It was a combined effort by my squadron and my technical staff and the boys and the airmen and that is how we could achieve it in 2008. And then we continued almost for a year.
Quite a hair-raising experience, I must say, sir. Especially
yes, definitely.
Getting into
but then, yes, but now youngsters are youngsters. After this hair-raising experience, I thought they will let me relax and enjoy my leftover tenure. So they said, no, sir, let's do something more. That is how the other two ALGs came. This was May to, yeah.
They were done in the same year?
That's what I'm saying. This was May 2008. In November, I was at Fukche. Now Fukche is in the Indus Valley. Okay. The eastern edge of river is with China, and the western is with us. And this airfield is just next to that. And it is at 14,500. So commonality, again, high altitude, elevation, kacha, unpaved surface, very close to line of actual control. So all the things were same, but here I had little bit maneuvering area, Means I could freely fly the aircraft one side of the runway, because other side you will cross the LS. But now here we had taken permission from government because it was very close and kind of a diplomatic things, and the books were coming in. It almost took 3 months for the permission from government. That is why we went in November. And whole Chinese army was standing next to the river, watching, looking at us. I told my boss, maybe they think we are fooling them, that we're just making one overshoot and going and not landing, so they are watching us. I said, let them. So with all their people around in that full bank covered, they were watching. We landed. Again, turn around, it was kind of a trial landing, showcase it.
Neoma is another one.
So,
of course.
Yeah, Neoma story is different, If you go from Chinese side, if you have to want to enter India, it's through Indus Valley, and then there is a one valley goes via Neoma to Leh. And in that area, Leh is the only place, isn't it? Most important place in Leh. So to protect Leh, we thought we should have some airfield in between, so that if something tomorrow goes wrong, we should have our people positioned there. So in Neoma, we found a flat place. So that searching for a place was also my job. Then getting the planning. So there we around 6,000-7,000 kind of a runway we could make. Again, same thing. It was 13,500 elevation. Then again unpaved surface. This was slightly away from LAC. It is around 20-22 kilometers. So there I landed on 19 September 2009. So Aadi, in you can say 17 months, 3 ALGs which have not been touched upon since independence, before independence you can say. Only one odd landing was done for something or the other, not the runways were not done, nothing. Neoma to we made a thing. And Neoma problem was there, it is next to a river. So it's all sandy. So we had to use a cement like compound also to make it a little bit firmer. Other two places it could be just compacted. Here it couldn't.
A lot of work happened.
So there also we landed, and so 17 months, 3 airfields, and all three strategically are very, very important, which we realized in 2020. Now I have heard newspaper somewhere I read very recently that Neoma they are planning to make a kind of a full-fledged. Very soon they will have aircraft. That was some talk, but it's a place which is difficult. People are keep asking me why are they not making it bitumen surface or cement. The answer is there are no roads. How do you take the material? DBO though is impossible. Now that road has been made, which we discussed, which created a lot of problem from China. China started thinking now though they have made a road also, but that this way these 3 LGs have made a lot of difference there. And now I hope after this road is made, things will be good for us. And now we will start looking towards China front also. And it proved that making these LGs or restarting these LGs made a difference to the overall scene. Because in 2020 we had to induct the forces very fast.
Yes. So
the DBO LG was used. That's all about the ALG stories. And I'm indebted to my youngsters. The amount of work they did for this, and I fully believe thereafter. I believe that if you handle the youngsters and keep challenging there by giving some challenging tasks, they are one of the best workers. And they used to do everything voluntary. I never had to. I used to just plan, and on the main day fly. Rest all they used to be very, very keen to do the calculations, do the preparations, what is to be done. So it was a wonderful thing for my squadron also. From then on, my squadron has really been, it has come up. And N32 once again proved that it is a wonderful machine.
And that, as a matter of fact, is your Shaurya Chakra story as well, sir.
Yes. I never, Shaurya Chakra you normally get. See, again, choices. I come to destiny and choices. Once again, I told you many times I will come. That is why I am so firm on that you have to make right choices. Shaurya Chakra normally is given especially for Air Force people, if they have some emergency somewhere in the air and they do a good job. My Shaurya Chakra again is different because I volunteered to do a job which they were saying, please don't do it. For reasons, for right reasons. But because of the strategic requirements and things like that, I went ahead and did. So I have planned to do something which was impossible. Whereas normally peacetime awards are, you get into a situation, you retrieve it well, Like aircraft emergency happens, you control it quite nicely and done. So if at all I was to get Suryakant, I should have got for Kargil. However, here I was, even after this choice I made, I decided that I will go and land there. And that was really appreciated by all because the strategic importance was understood. And let me tell you, in India, somehow strategic thinking is not that yet established, not that we take quite an interest. Because that time nobody said that there is some strategic importance in this, mind you.
This word
Now,
strategic
after,
has just come into discussions.
yes, you're right, exactly. And DBO landing also is strategic, was said only after 6 years after I landed. Somewhere in, you know, 15, 16. And 2020, though it was proved. But my boss and me were very sure that definitely it is a strategic activity. So you can say a tactical action resulting in a strategic
Result.
result.
No, it
That
is
is
very,
how you
it is
can.
very critical. So one can actually see, because at the end of it, if we didn't have these kind of airfields, one of the things that we can see, of course, Pengongso is a different story altogether. But the current standoff with the Chinese is at in the Depsang Plains, wherein the DBO Airfield
Yes,
is.
yes.
So it is still under
Definitely.
contention with the Chinese. So it's not that the Chinese are.
And don't you think, Adi, it's not going to end? The way it is going, we are seeing it is more than a year now. Okay, so it is a constant activity, and their road and railway line network is phenomenal.
Yes.
Phenomenal, that area. And with this opening of 3 ALGs and the road, now we have some standing in that area.
Clarity, yes.
And it's a very, very difficult terrain, let me tell you. Hats off to the army Jawans who are working day in, day out there. And for them, AN32 sound, itself is such a pleasure, because after so many days, when if weather sometimes clams on for 8 days,
Yes.
and it's very lonely, Adi, there. So even if one aircraft passes by their post, they are thrilled. It may not be dropping at their place, but crossing over, still it's an indication of life around. That there is somebody to look after you. It's a very difficult place, terrain. And I will tell you one kind of anecdote which I forgot. When I used to go for this DBO checking up whether that soil has been compacted well and all, so I just to carry one kind of a instrument and try digging and things like that. So one 18, 19-year-old boy, ITBP Jawan, walked up to me one day. There I had to be very careful. If you walk 4-5 steps very fast, you will fall unconscious. You have breathing problem because 40% less oxygen. So I was slowly getting into the thing and doing that. So he walked up to me and he said, "Saab ji, हमारे पिताजी भी यहीं काम करते थे." So ये बहुत बार आके चेक करते हैं लोग. अब वो बड़ा जहाज कब ले आएंगे? आप बड़ा जहाज वाले हो ना? So he's such an innocent question it was, because you can imagine that boy has to walk 14 kilometers, 14 days to reach the first base. So it made me very, very kind of a sentimental, you can say. Fauji's are not supposed to be, but then I felt something in me. I said, no, I was doing this. Now, though I have firmed up, I will come. Whether it continues or not is a different story. So I told that boy, okay, I said, हम आएंगे और जरूर आएंगे, और हम जब आएंगे तो आप ये कोने में खड़े रहिएगा. हम जब बड़ा जहाज ले आएंगे आप इधर रहेंगे, तो हम आपको आपके बड़े साहब से मिलाएंगे और बताएंगे कि आपके कारण हम लैंड कर रहे हैं. And Adi, I was so happy to tell you, the day I landed, that boy was standing exactly the same position which I had told him. See the impact on these people. It's life for them. It's life for them. So I had requested my boss, he said, one separate this thing hand over to him when he comes. So I called him. I called him over. Said, oh, he came running, jumping. That altitude, they are acclimatized. These boys run there. You see them, you get scared, they run. He came running, jumping. took that thing, and the smile on his face, it's one of the best gift ever I could get. Shaurya Chakra and all was for the public, but I got my thing there. So at times, in this job, uh, activity, especially transport fleet, the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief you do, the amount of satisfaction you derive out of this is a phenomenal thing. Oh, it's a peacetime role is a different story. We can definitely talk about it sometime others, and there are stories within the stories.
Absolutely.
It's a huge job which undertaking. The entire, as I mentioned, Chandigarh is a lifeline for North.
Yeah.
It's a place which they are the people who are doing this, and day in day out. And army people, they stay there. You can imagine. I used to just go there and come back. These people are staying there. So DBO was very important for me because of that reason also. That they have at least, even having back of mind that tomorrow something goes wrong with me, there are people who can come land and pick me up.
Pick me up.
That feeling gives them more additional this. And now, though so much of strength is there, and everything you have to put there before winters. Every day, even their breakfast, lunch, dinner is being dropped by air. So it's a lifeline. It's a lifeline.
I think now it's become a regularized operational area because of the requirements.
No, it was always, but the airfield we had were only lay and thighs. And further up, we used to do drops. Now, drops, what happens, Adi, is because of the wind speed there, 130 kilometers, 110 kilometers, 80 kilometers. We drop at 1,000 feet, open the ramp and drop. There is a parachute. So, generally it falls quite nice. But take the example of Siachen. It's a glacier. And in that, that poor chap has got one post. There may be 1,000 crevasses all around. If it doesn't fall where he has made that chota square, he will not retrieve it. He will let it be there, put a orange flag and say when I require. Because for walking that much, now they of course have snow scooters and all. So drop, there are losses and they have to do a lot of activity. Landing means it's a home delivery. So it makes a difference. But you can't find much landing grounds there. So it's a catch-22 situation. Some places, helicopters do a wonderful job. Where one can't imagine, they just put one skid there, offload some 10, 15, 20 kgs, move out. Means they don't land fully. Such and at that altitude, it's very difficult to operate. Helicopters are also doing a phenomenal job. Army and Air Force helicopters. They go where we fixed wing can't go. So their places are more remote.
Amazing.
So it's a difficult.
Sorry, please go on, sir.
No. I said it's a difficult and combined effort of Army and Air Force. You keep speaking to a lot of generals and things like that, and words like synergy and this and that are spoken about. But here in this activity, not a word is spoken about synergy, but the synergy is seen on the ground. The amount of, if they had not prepared DBO ALG, it was impossible for taking an aircraft there. I'm telling you. It's the Army Jawan's effort, guided by Lieutenant General Bharadwaj and his people, and the engineering corps, which engineering regiment they had. They did a phenomenal job. And it's not luxury, you don't get every material which you require there. The center line was drawn by Chuna. Normal. Why? Because you can't paint on kacha.
Yeah.
And we have something known as runway markers. It tells you how much runway is left so that you can decelerate and things like that. You can't make there. So they put jerry cans, empty jerry cans, covered with a white cloth. On that they wrote the number 1, 2 means 1,000, 2,000 like that. Such phenomenal thinking. what is available, optimal utilization of what is available, and still going ahead with operations and safety paramount. No compromise in safety. So many sorties we did 50, 60 thereafter. After each landing, they had to compact the surface. Let me tell you that. Poor guys, that road roller rod broke once. They manufactured one there local and attached it and did it. Because you can't take anything there. It's a difficult act.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hair-raising stuff, sir. At the end of it, it makes one think. We demand so much out of our forces. What goes behind those demands is something that we must understand. Of course,
Exactly.
the frontline guys are the most critical, but it's the backbone of the Air Force which is actually making it fight. It's the backbone of the Army that is making it fight. It's the backbone of the Navy which is making it fight.
I told you, Chandigarh can be said to be having an aerial bridge to north. It's a continuous job, 365 days. And sometimes if weather goes bad, then those many things, what you have, that western disturbance which passes, it really clamps down the whole thing. Then the backlog gets created. Now COVID is going on. All the Indian Air Force transport aircraft you can see going all over Germany, this, that. Okay, I keep wondering what is happening to my guys there. You know, that job is continuous. These are add-on jobs. Almost 30,000 plus tons is airlifted. In the world, this is a phenomena, let me tell you. When as a chief operation officer of Agra, his ambassadors and all other senior officers of other air forces used to visit us, and when I used to brief them about the air maintenance part, they used to get shocked that something like this in the world is happening. It's a phenomenal activity. It's worth seeing. Chandigarh, one day in Chandigarh is a phenomenon, let me tell you. The activity starts 2 o'clock midnight. That's why I said peacetime task of Indian Air Force is worth its own be measured in gold. It's a phenomenal job. And let me tell you, Army also is involved in that because the entire loading is done by them. So synergy, we keep talking. On the ground, when you see synergy at the lowest level, you feel very, very happy. I got best of my friends in Army who were there with me in that area. Because the bonding which you create is a very different bonding.
Wonderful, sir. This has been it's been an eye opener of a talk, and you've taken us through the story of your life as well as the happenings of those times, which is the most critical.
Yes.
And one can actually realize, certain decisions taken, and it is also true for today's environment as well. A decision taken today could actually hamper or augment our operations in terms of our two best friends on either side of our borders, probably a decade down the line. The Chinese always are going to have plans. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. The Pakistanis are, okay, fair enough, been reduced to a nuisance, but at the end of it, a nuisance can also become a pain. So there has been a lot of work which has happened, and thank you so much for actually taking us through just probably a part or a segment of work that has been done to augment the line of actual control. But that particular segment, if I would, I'm not trying to demean it, but that particular segment which was done at that point of time may seem very, very small. But in today's environment, especially after the May month of last year, that segment became from this much to a scope which was actually changing the geopolitics of the entire world. So thank you so much, sir, firstly for what you've done, and thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story. I will obviously be disturbing you more and more for some more stuff, because during your talk I could think about some other things that I want to talk to you about. For example, if I may just put it online as well, how did the entire mobilization of the armed forces actually happen? We all talked, we stood in front of the Chinese and this and that, but I don't think most of us even realized how that thing was actually done. Taking 90,000 troops with food, with equipment, with ammunition, with tanks, and so on and so forth. It's not an easy task. So thank you once again, sir, and for spending this time with me. and I'll catch you up another day, another subject.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. And it was my pleasure to speak to you, Adi. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.